All right. Welcome, folks. Nice to be with you all. I've talked about this in the past, that we really, based on the way we are describing reality, describing our experience, um, as a function of those descriptions, we've created hierarchies, you could say, hierarchies of experience, hierarchies in terms of things like how positive or negative the experience is, how valuable or not valuable, how meaningful or not meaningful, how important, how not important, how potentially threatening or not threatening. And you could say these hierarchies are related to to some degree, in our capacity for discrimination, for recognizing, for consciousness's ability to recognize difference and distinction, which is an extraordinary capacity that consciousness has to do that. But as I'm often inviting people to notice, there's really a radically different way of exploring our experience and discovering something that is fundamental to all experience, that we could say is common to all experience, its basis, its nature. And this cuts through, this recognition, this seeing cuts through the hierarchy. It doesn't obliterate the hierarchy. It doesn't negate discrimination in the capacity to notice differences and even evaluate those differences in terms of their meaning to us, their benefit to us, and so on, right? I mean, I can still recognize that, getting a massage feels better or feels more beneficial than having somebody, hit me, right? So that capacity to distinguish doesn't vanish, of course. But it's very profound, very powerful, very liberating to discover that there's a singularity here, there's a wholeness, there's one thing here. We could call this one thing life, we could call this one thing existence, we could call this one thing presence, we could call this one thing God, if we'd like. We could call the one thing whatever we want. I mean, ultimately, the one thing that's here, the presence of what's here, this, as I like to sometimes call it, this is beyond all words and all names, and yet inclusive of all names and forms and descriptions. That's what's so extraordinary about it. It transcends all description and yet includes all description. It transcends all difference and distinction and differentiation, and yet is inclusive of all of that, of course, because it is all of that. It is all things. So what is it that seems to keep us from noticing that, or veiling that from us somehow? It's not ultimately veiled because it's being seen right now. You're seeing the singularity, you're seeing the one thing in whatever particular form and shape and quality it's appearing as right now. Our tendency to mistakenly overlook that, miss that, is just, it's a little quirk of consciousness um, to imagine that this is something in particular, it is a particular way, and not infrequently for us humans, the way this gets rendered is as somehow lacking, as somehow missing, as somehow not being the absolute reality, not being God, not being perfection, not being this inconceivable, transcendental, infinite thing we call life, reality, whatever, again, we might call it. So I'd like to just invite you to um, notice that. And here's a very simple I think, way to discover this singularity. That is a singularity despite all of the different ways it can appear. And incidentally, discovering this has so much payoff, if you will, so much, discovering the non-hierarchical nature of experience reveals the way in which all experience is it. All experience is fundamentally actually what we're looking for. All experience at its basis is home. All experience, again, no matter how it seems to be showing up, no matter its qualities, its textures, its flavors, is none other than the very ground of existence itself. And so this is incredibly liberating to notice this. Because from this vantage, this experiential vantage, it's not a philosophy, from this experiential vantage point, you're never apart from totality. You're never apart from the vast infinite ground that is everything, because there is nothing that's apart from it, because everything that appears is it. So there can be no separation, even though we may imagine ourselves somehow separate from what it is we're searching for, and then trying to get our way back to non-separation. But it's really not like that. It's more seeing that separation doesn't actually exist. I often use the metaphor of the ocean and the waves, and it's a useful one, I think, here. So if you just, as we're sitting here with eyes opened or closed, it doesn't really matter. Consider that this is the ocean of life that's being experienced, the vast ocean of life in all the many forms that it can take. And water is a lovely metaphor for a lot of reasons. One is that water so clearly has this quality of fluidity and movement, doesn't it? It's not even in a still pond, in a still lake, there's still subtle movement, isn't there? And so just feeling the fluid nature of this watery ocean of life, of existence, as you sit here, and our tendency is to imagine that what we're looking for, and you can fill in the blank, I'm looking for love, I'm looking for God, I'm looking for freedom, I'm looking for enlightenment, I'm looking for well-being, I'm looking for ease, I'm looking for peace, I'm looking to feel a sense of being at home, whatever it is, doesn't really matter what it is exactly. That we tend to think that looks a certain way, and then we go on a search for it, we try to identify it, we often imagine that, well, it's not this, this is not what I'm looking for, but this is the only thing that exists. The waves of experience that are arising right now, we may call them thoughts, feelings, sensations, perceptions. The waves of experience rising up from the ocean, the ground ocean of reality, are, of course, the sea. Every wave, no matter its shape or form or texture or quality, is none other than life, isn't it? So as you sit here, you may have this sense of kind of, and this is a function of the way attention works, and the tendency for consciousness to focus on various aspects of the field, the vast field of experience. Just allow that to occur very naturally, the way in which focus of attention just suddenly happens. And the next thing you know, there's a focus of attention on some aspect of the field, let's say. It could be anything. You could be suddenly noticing thinking. You could be suddenly noticing sounds. And it's this constant movement of attention, kind of traveling around the field, traveling around the the ocean of experience, the vast ocean of your experience. And things come into view, and then they fall out of view, and a new thing comes into view, and that falls out of view. But just appreciate that no matter where consciousness may travel, no matter where you may travel in the field of experience. And of course, what you think of as yourself is also the field of experience. So, there's just one field of experiencing. No matter where you travel in the field of experience, you're always in the field of experience. You never depart from the field of experience, do you? You never depart from the sea. Because every wave that's encountered, everything that comes into view as a focus of attention is none other than experiencing. It's none other than reality. So it's impossible to remove yourself from the field of experience. Where would you go? And the field of experience may feel like a kind of circumscribed field with some sort of edge to it. But that's just a belief. Because as you feel your experience, you can quickly see that there has no edge to it. It's edgeless. It may feel kind of localized, and we have this sense like we're kind of here, and then there's somehow some vague over there that's not the field of experience. But that's an abstraction. There's just here. There's just what's here. Anything that we think is not here is imagined, at least experientially. We can conceptualize something else, some other location, but that's a concept. Experientially, there is no other location. There's this location, which is very strange because it's here. It feels sort of localized. Here is here. It's here. The feeling of reality, the feeling of this moment. But where exactly is here? And it's really spaceless because there's no there. So in a sense, here is a meaningless term. It's simply present, but the presence has no specific location, does it? In a sense, it's without clear reference points. So enjoy this incredible fact, we could say, that everywhere you travel in the field of experience, you never leave the field of experience. And no particular point of attention or focus of attention, and irrespective of how those focus of attention that arise may be described, what you're encountering is reality. You're encountering life. You're encountering existence. You're encountering the absolute. You're encountering whatever it is, whatever miracle gives rise to what's here. You're encountering the very force and power of reality that generates reality, whatever that is. I mean, we can't say. This powerful presence, this force that is here and is appearing as every instant that we call life, every moment. And every wave, to come back to that metaphor, we don't have to change the waves of experience for them to be the ocean of existence, appearing as that particular wave. The waves are the ocean. All there is the ocean of existence. We don't have to find a better wave. We don't have to even understand the waves and why they're here and what they are. And we can just encounter everything and recognize that everything that's encountered in all the ways that it's encountered, all the ways in which the moment appears and seems to be, each apparition is the apparition of pure presence, isn't it? It's extraordinary. So we're always home. We're always home in this ground, this groundless ground of being, this fathomless reality, this fathomless, boundless, infinite existence that somehow is here, showing up as this, looking like however it looks to you. It's literally all that there is. But it's beyond comprehension what it is. It's so much more than what we think it is. We can't really say what it is. It's this presence, the presence of what is. There is never anything but the presence of what is there? Nothing exists but the presence of what is. The presence is palpable, isn't it? It's concretely present. It's substantively here. This here-ness, this presence, isn't it? It's pure energy, pure Shakti, pure aliveness. Sometimes it shows up as a fiery display. Sometimes it shows up as placid and quiet, and sometimes it shows up as a sense of missing something, a sense of separation. Sometimes it shows up as a sense of nothing is lacking and there's only indivisible fullness and presence. I mean, it can show up anyway, but however it's showing up, it's still itself. However the waves are appearing, it's still the ocean. In other words, it's indestructibly itself. It can't ever be anything but presence. Presence is indestructible. And you are that indestructible presence. Every aspect of what we think of as ourselves, the body, the mind, the personality, all of it is made of whatever everything's made of. Let's call it pure presence. And so there's no getting into presence. There's no being cast out of presence. Nothing has to be done. No manipulations are needed to make presence present. No manipulations are needed to get oneself into presence and stay in presence. All of that is an unnecessary game. Presence just simply is here without anything having to be done to make it here. Reality is here immediately before we take one step towards it. It's already here, isn't it? Before we take one step to find it, one step to notice it, one step to commune with it, it's already here, shining forth as us. We have it all backwards. It's already us. There's no return to it. But there can be a recognition that there's no return to it. And we could call that the returning, in a sense, to see that there is no returning, that we're here, and this here is the presence of the infinite. And sure, because maybe just because of the way we seem to be as these human creatures, seeing the equalness of everything in the sense of it all being presence doesn't negate this dance of preferences that arises for us as humans, seemingly. So yeah, so I can still have preferences for certain kinds of experience over others, let's say. But the fact is that even when the experiences and circumstances are less to our liking, let's say, shall we say, our idiosyncratic preferences, they are still pure presence, and they don't actually take us somehow away from the ground of well-being, the profound transcendental ground that is everything, because nothing can take away from that, because that is everything. So, and for this reason, every experience is a doorway into the same fundamental reality, which is very convenient. Because you don't have to go anywhere. I want to get to some other experience where the grass is greener or better or more spiritual or whatever. That's just nonsense. It's not, there's no getting to some other, there's no need to get to some other experience, because this experience is it. That's the great good news. But the interpretations have a tendency to tell us otherwise, to tell us that, oh no, this could be better. There could be a better, more enlightened, more awake, a clearer, more open, so on and so on and so on experience. Somehow I've heard all these great stories in the spiritual traditions, like this ain't it. It's got to be better than this, right? But no, this is pure. This is, well, for one thing, this is all you have, all we have. There is no other reality. This instant, there's no any other moment is an abstraction. There's no future, actually. There's just this. We never arrive in the future, do we? So we can absolutely relax and enjoy the fact that we're always home, that we are home. We are the home that is everything, including, of course, us. So there's no, the waves of life, all the people, places, and things, and experiences and circumstances actually don't have any independent existence, autonomous existence from the ground, from God, from the absolute reality, any more than the wave has an independent existence from the ocean. It doesn't. The wave has no independent existence. It is the ocean. It may look like it's somehow separate, but you can't ever pull it out of the context and say, separate it from its ground, nor can that be done with any other experience or phenomena. So the phenomena that we encounter they're inseparable from the basis of all of this.